Okay, okay. This morning, feeling a little puffy in the face. Woke up and I don't know when I took that live photo pic, I was like, "What the hell?" Anyway, this morning my wife was telling me about stuff that goes on at the dental office. She works in a dental office, and I'm always telling her my stories and what's going on. And she's like, someone came into the office and she's like, I just keep noticing this pattern. And she's like, with certain old people, she's like, they come in and they're just nasty. So she tells me a story, and I'm gonna change the story and modify the story to have some fun with it, because it's comical to me listening to my wife tell a story about what's going on in the dental office. And she goes, this lady comes in and she goes, it wasn't even my patient, right? It wasn't even my patient. So all the dental assistants and hygienists and dentists, they go into different rooms, right? So she's like, it wasn't even my patient. And she goes, I hear this lady going, why are you taking unnecessary x-rays? And sometimes the things that clients, or more likely potential clients, say, right? And she said she couldn't help herself. She went over to the lady and she goes, ma'am, ma'am, that's how she says it, ma'am. And she goes, let's see, I gotta hit every bunch of traffic this morning. So she goes, ma'am, you've not been to our office before. We don't have any medical charts on you. We understand that you're telling us that your tooth hurts, but we don't have x-ray vision. We can't read the mind of the tooth, right? We have to take an x-ray in the area that you're experiencing pain, so that we can properly analyze what's wrong and give you the correct procedure. I mean, you want the doctor to come in here and the dentist to come in here and go, there you go, there's your... So she said that the lady was like, okay, like, kind of buzzed out for a second. And then she's like, I just don't understand. Why do I have to do this? And my wife's thinking to herself, like, what the hell? Like, is this person crazy? Like, how do you, if you tell someone that I'm experiencing chest pains, do you expect that you walk into the emergency room and they go, scalpel, and just start cutting, right? Does anyone expect that? So she said she used a term of art, something in the dental field, because you have to do that. And the lady goes, well, what's VMX or whatever? And she's like, it's a procedure, da da da. And she did her best to explain. And what she did was that she was telling me how she explained it. She goes, ma'am, you're experiencing some discomfort. I got to figure out, is it a cavity? Is it a gum? Is it that you need a root canal? Are you going to need a crown? Are you going to have the tooth pulled? Are you going to need an implant? How can I tell that by going, and they go through their procedure, right? Because they're trying to figure out what is the most serious of things, so they can eliminate that, right? Like, what's the most serious thing probably with a dental tooth, right? Is probably pulling the tooth, right? And having to do an implant. So they need to check the life of the tooth, right? The sensitivity, look at the roots, see if there's something on an x-ray that would show, right? Anyone who's been a dentist, I mean, your dentist kind of explains this stuff to you, right? So they start to tell her, she goes, just pull the tooth, like, and my wife's just thinking, like, well, ma'am, if you wanted, why don't you just come in and tell us right from the beginning what you want? You did your self-analysis. Why don't you just come in and we can save all the time and the trouble, right? We can save the test. We can save this, right? The examination, the tapping on the tooth. We can save all that if you just come in and go, I want my tooth pulled, sign away, and we'll pull the freaking tooth. right? So anyway, my wife then she goes, it's like some of people when they come in with you and they go, oh, it's an easy case. I go, oh, honey, you didn't know it. Every criminal case is an easy case. Every personal injury case is an easy case. Not so much personal injury. I don't think people, I don't hear that as much from my personal injury clients, but I hear it from criminal clients. They may have, aimed a gun at their loved ones or tried to stab, the kid or the neighbor, or they may have, punched a police officer. They may have gotten into a fight at a restaurant with a total stranger. They may have stolen something at the mall. They may have committed some fraud and stolen from their employer. But they always tell me it's an easy case. And not always, but the ones that do, those are the cases I usually prefer not to take. Because if you think that's easy, I don't think anything's easy. I work to try to acquire the best result on every case. So anyway, it just made me laugh because my wife is going, ma'am, like interrupts this lady who's just being rude and discourteous to one of the other workers at the office. And it just makes me laugh. And she goes, I tell you, honey, I pray every day. She goes, I hope I don't become like that. And I'm like, oh Lord, please don't let RP turn out like that. Please don't let RP get mean or meaner or and trying not to waste time or energy on things that I have no control over. Now, easier said than done. I have a buddy on Facebook, former Alabama player. He was there just before I was there, and he's got ALS. And it's what a nice guy, what a kind soul, great athlete, great coach. He coached in the NFL, but he's got ALS, and he's in the later stages of ALS. But every morning, every day, he posts something, and I don't think he can type. I think he uses something, like an oral device that can kind of help him write. But his mind is so clear, and today's post was, it is what it is. And he said something about, people ask him, hey, how can you, do this or say this and be so clear in your mind? He goes, because I quit wasting time on things I can't control, right? I can't control the fact that I have ALS. I can only control what I'm going to do today and how I'm going to act, what I'm going to write. And it, I had to pause, and I just laid down in the bed, and I wrote him a message, and he's just, we find inspiration in people. And I wrote to him and I said, hey, Kerry, I said, something to the effect of, as men, we don't always share things that could help others. And I said, I know that common stance, right? Don't waste time, right, on things that you have no control over. But I find myself, I'll get mad at a prosecutor, I'll get mad at a judge, I'll get mad at a client, I'll be upset, I'll spend time overthinking an analysis of something on something I can't control, and it helps to hear another human being put it out there and say, listen, you can't control that. Focus on what you can control. I can control me, right? I can control me. I can control my anger. I can, to a large extent, I can control my day. I can control my income. I can control my health, right? Not all things, right? But a vast majority of them, right? I don't want to be a chubby ass, right? I could be running and lifting weights and exercising and stretching, and so my back doesn't ache and my hips don't hurt and my knee doesn't hurt. And it was just nice to hear Kerry Good, put that out. And again, Kerry Good on Facebook, just an inspirational guy, really good guy. And I'm sad that he has that disease, but I'm blessed to know him, to have him, on Facebook as a friend. He's just an inspirational person, man. So anyway, I want to tell you a story, and I'm going to kind of use that as a preface. I recently had a client who came to my office. He didn't have a lot of money. It was on a criminal case, right? Personal injury, you don't need any case. You don't need any money. So the guy, tells me a story, and he's sad and he's upset and he's separated from his family because, he's got a charge. He's got a criminal charge, and it involves domestic violence. And he's alleged to have done something, right? Assault, verbally saying he's going to harm them or harming them, touching them, striking them, punching them, whatever, right? Facts aren't important. And he comes to my office, and he doesn't have a lot of money. And as anyone who follows me, you've heard me talk about, I didn't have a lot of money. I was a guy that grew up on welfare, didn't have, took hand-me-down clothes from the neighbors and Salvation Army, and my mother was on welfare, and we just didn't have a lot. So I'm very cognizant of when people don't have money, and I try to help those people. And sometimes I'll reduce my price. Sometimes I'll set up a longer payment plan. Sometimes I'll take less down. In this case, I kind of did all of those, right? I reduced my legal fee. I allowed them to pay the minimum down. And just to give you, so you have an understanding, is the case was a $7,500 case, right? And the person kind of down on their luck to some extent, stressing, trying to figure out a place to live while the domestic violence case is pending. And I was thinking, okay, I'll do $5,000. And then I went, they don't have it. Let me work with them more. I'll do $4,000. I'll do $1,000 down. I'll do some payments, and I'll allow them to pay me. So I get the case. I question the person. I go through a long, detailed aspect of what occurred, went through the police report, set up a meeting with the state attorney's office, wrote a letter, filed in on the case, requested discovery, ordered the 911 tapes, all that stuff, right? Followed up some questions, had a meeting, and ultimately was able to convince the state attorney's office after about 2 weeks to drop the case and not go forward. It's called the no information. Now, I always tell clients, I go, I get paid the same whether I can, and I use boxing analogies, whether I can win the case in the first round or it takes me 15 rounds. I get paid the same. I mean, that's the reality, right? So I'm going to do everything I can to try to get the knockout for the guy, right? To convince the state to not, that there wasn't enough evidence, that there's not a high likelihood of. I do my case law research. I handle a lot of domestic violence cases. So I do my due diligence. I convince the prosecutor, they dismiss the case. Now, the client goes, oh, okay, I'm going to pay you. Weeks go by, months go by. Hey, man, what's going on? You haven't paid me. He goes, I don't need a lawyer. Huh? He goes, I don't need a lawyer. The case is already dismissed. Now it rubs me a little bit the wrong way. I'm like, well, yeah, I know that you know why you don't need me doing anything further is because I already won. I talked to the state, I filed my pleadings, I made my arguments, your case is dismissed. And he's like, yeah, but I don't need you. I don't need to pay you. Oh my God. I wanted to get mad, but things you can't control, right? So there's a part of me, I go, okay, you know what? I don't want to be upset. I don't want to be angry. I'll call you back when I have some time, because I was kind of in between calls when I called and I had someone waiting. I said, I'll get back to you. I said, right. So I can send them a letter. I can, have my receptionist call or paralegal call and say, hey, it's important that you can do this. I could file a lawsuit. I could, hire another attorney in town to do collection and get myself all amped up. But is it worth it? Do I really have control over the situation? Or is it karma? Or is it goodwill? I say to myself, I have a lot of blessings. I'm alive. I woke up this morning. I'm breathing. I have a great wife. I have animals. I have a great family. I'm able to pay my bills. I'm able to contribute to society. If someone came in and they were just they just didn't have the finances, like homeless people that I've represented, I didn't charge them. So now I have to make the analysis, like, okay, like what if the guy really doesn't have the money? But for me, it's not about whether he had the money. The money, hey, I may have just did it as a pro bono case. I may have. I may not have. I may have charged him a very low fee, but I still took $3,500 off of my legal fee. So I said, okay, I can't control it. I don't want to get upset about it. I'll pause. I'll think. I'll move on to the next topic. I am blessed, right? After 17 years, I got my new F-150, 2 weeks ago. What can you do? Can you, how mad and angry are you going to get at the world? I have no control over whether that guy is going to pay me or not. He's like, I don't have any money, but a lot of people, I've met millionaires that tell me that they don't have a lot of money, right? It's it's part of the job. Anyway, yesterday, new topic, because this is what I do when I drive. I randomly talk about different shit. Right, yesterday I did a video as I was driving late to the courthouse, and I said, hey, when you are late, especially as an attorney, you have to call the state attorney, right? You got to call the prosecutor. If they don't answer, you got to send an email. You got to do the same thing with the judge. You call the judge's assistant, and and then you send an email, because sometimes things happen. Sometimes there's a car accident. Sometimes you're late. Sometimes you get delayed from one hearing to another. So that's what I was doing the video until afterwards I saw a bunch of comments like, no audio. And this new truck, like, I don't know what it is, but if I do the sound through the truck, you don't get audio on the video. So I turned off the Bluetooth now as I'm making my videos. And I'm hands-free. I'm not touching anything. That's what I was talking about yesterday, and I thought about just putting some funny music to it or something, and couldn't control that I was late, but I could control being courteous. I could control being professional, and I emailed the judge, the prosecutor. So all that, the anxiety of being late, of not looking professional, of not getting the job done, right? I get there and I have anxiety. I'm making a video because I don't want to speed. I don't want to get pulled over. I need to get to the courthouse safely so I can represent my client and get the motion argued. And I get there and there's a bunch of people. I'm like, okay. But the first thing I do when I address the court is I go, Judge, I apologize. I apologize that that I was late. I emailed your judicial assistant, left a message, and same with the state. And the judge kind of laughs at me. He looks up at the clock, and it's 2:02, and he knows that I've been sitting in the courtroom for about 20 minutes or so. He goes, Mr. Foley, you're actually early. If you recall, I set you at 2 o'clock, not on my normal 1 o'clock, because your case was a little bit more complicated. And I just went, Judge, I said, I can't tell you how much anxiety I had. I did a YouTube video on my way expressing my anxiety. I hate to be late. I hate to be unprepared. I'm that guy that has the dream that I'm in 10th grade geometry and I didn't study for the test. I wake up, I'm in my dream, and all of a sudden I show up for class and the judge goes, all right, put your books away, put your calculators away, and we have a test today. And I'm like, oh shit, I am not prepared. And I still have that dream. So I told him I did a YouTube, and he kind of laughed. And someone said it's not YouTube, it's all about TikTok these days. You're getting too old, Foley. And I go, so this morning I got a couple of cases going. I got a felony case, I got a misdemeanor case. Felony case is pretty serious. The misdemeanor case is, it's a misdemeanor case. It's not. And then I have two misdemeanors and a felony this morning. So I'm driving to court, and then I got another one tomorrow. The one I have today, I'll share. I'm not gonna. It's a DUI. Everyone knows I hate when people drive impaired, right? Normal faculties, when they're drunk or they're stoned or they're high on a drug. But that's not my job. My job is not to judge. My job is not to enforce. My job is not to label. My job is to look at if the police officers did their job properly, point out the mistakes, and it was substantial enough to get the case thrown out or reduced or to go to trial. It's a couple months old, and I had only received discovery, like the very motion to compel reciprocal, 3 sheets of paper. And I think I have a bunch of cases, so sometimes I get the names, but I know the stories real well. Sometimes I confuse people's names. So I called the client yesterday and I say, hey, what's going on? That we weren't that kind of thing. And I said, I sent you the, right? And he goes, yeah, you sent me the discovery and the offer. And I said, yeah. And I said, let me double check, because I got some more stuff. I got some new stuff. So I watched this video, and it's crazy because there's I've never seen a DUI. It's got 16 video cameras, right? It's got the jail. It's got the BAT facility, the breath and alcohol testing. It's got a front camera on the car. It's got a back camera on the car. It's